what's going on, everyone? Check out what's coming up this week on Legacies. The thing that always impresses me the most is just how many incredible people there are in the industry. You just get to rub shoulders and shoot the shit and talk about what's going on, and a lot of positive people.
And he said, what are you going to be selling? And I said, like weed stuff, like marijuana stuff. He's like, we're going to call it gifts and glass. I was like, okay. And he filled out the form. And luckily, if that man did not check off that box, I wouldn't be talking to you today.
Oh, my God.
And then I'm going to throw a beverage in my top three just because I think the beverage category deserves more. And it's still the orange cream from Sheesh.
Yeah, well,
absolutely.
Fuck you, because I can never get my hands on it, okay? Hey, welcome to Legacies, everyone. I'm your host, Tom Ritchie, joined by Wesley the Wizard Bowles. Wes, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Look at you all fucking set up. All set up. Got new equipment.
Upgrades.
That is, of course, for our upcoming in-person. We've outfitted. I haven't done anything on my end. It still works well, though. Let's remind everyone that Legacies is brought to you by Breadstack. Retailers, it's probably time for an upgrade, especially after we were at yesterday's event. There was a lot of talk around SEO. I got a fucking ladybug in the studio. Bye.
It's autumn brand.
What the hell? Yeah, no doubt. I don't need those anymore. I don't grow anymore. Yeah. Anyways, good day yesterday.
Were you as exhausted? I was exhausted. Yeah, I was just gonna say I was fucking exhausted.
I'm always burnt after, and it's not so much an event. I mean, obviously there's the event, but it's the extra travel, and I was like a kid yesterday, waking up early thinking I'm going to Canada's Wonderland or something. I was awake at like the hour of stupid. It was real early. I think it was 4:30. Yeah.
Well, it is nice to have a field trip every now and then. I mean, we work from home, and it does feel like a field trip when we get to do those
nice
things.
To be involved with others. And the dogs are in studio, so I do apologize to everyone if you happen to hear them. They may even come on camera at some point. Anyways, no, it was a great event yesterday. Love getting to see everyone. You know, the thing that always impresses me the most is just how many incredible people there are in the industry. And you just get to rub shoulders and shoot the shit and talk about what's going on, and a lot of positive people, which is nice, because if you stick within the confines of, Instagram in some cases, or LinkedIn or Twitter or Reddit, it's all doom and gloom, and it's not.
There were. I was surprised, not surprised, I should say, but I haven't really seen it before, because the events we typically have gone to have been, yesterday was the first event I went to where I saw a bunch of independent retailers. You could tell there was a couple of husband-wife teams and things like that. And there were a lot of independent retailers there with notebooks, sat down at the tables, writing things down, learning from those panels.
That's
and
what
that
it's
was
for.
Really encouraging to see. I really, really liked that.
Yeah. So congrats to Jazz, obviously, for putting that event together. But I think it's great. And it makes you wonder, we're 5 years in, it's not that far, but you can still learn from each other what their successes and in some cases failures, and some were very open about sharing what worked and did not work and how they had to pivot. One of the things that stood out to me, obviously, I got the pleasure and honor of moderating a panel, and it had Meris Kott on it. And Meris, former CEO of Shiny Buds, and one of the things, she splits her time between, Florida and Vancouver and Toronto. But she had said something that really stuck with me, which is, yes, we have very stringent regulations, but we still have so much opportunity because we are federally legalized and regulated, and never let that pass, right? We have an opportunity here to continue to dominate at the global level. And we just need to, we're going through growing pains. So that was refreshing.
Yeah, I really liked listening to Owen Allerton talking.
Yeah, he's a passionate dude, man.
He gave some really, really great details for the independent retailers who sat there, listened, and are going to take that home and apply it. They're going to be winners.
What was
he talked about how to combat and how you could set your store up to combat the larger the larger retailers that are really heavy into data deals.
Yeah,
because basically they're operating at a loss. If you take away that margin that they're getting from the data deal revenue, they're actually operating at a loss on this. So trying to beat them on price point, try to price match them, you're going to
He was
fail.
very strong on do not price match. It's a race
Yeah.
to the bottom.
Instead, you got to be stocking the stuff that they're not stocking. Stock a couple of the things that most people look for and come in and have those as your base level SKUs, but stock the stuff that everyone doesn't have.
What did he
and
say?
You're
It
going to
was the naughty list. I think it was something.
Yeah,
in
the nice list.
Yeah, he had the nice list, but
Yeah.
there was also, maybe it's not something they speak about openly, but it's kind of the naughty list where they need to carry them. They're kind of a staple. But at the same time, when people come in, they're like, yeah, we have this, but that naughty list is those that operate with data deals in a lot of cases. And, I know Owen's menu because I do this every time I see Owen. Shout out, man. You've got one of the best fucking menus. Seriously.
2,500 SKUs.
Well, dude, I mean, like this guy is, I don't know. I don't know how he keeps so many. He obviously knows, and a massive staff. I think
25,
he said 25.
But
here's the thing. We obviously are privy to a lot of new drops in the market. We get a lot of outreach. Hey, this is dropping. Check this out. And I'm like, cool. And I'll go to find it. And every time I put it in a weed finder of some sort, guess who has it? I never have these bespoke LP brands and craft, but it always shows up at Highland Cannabis. Always. He's about 50K from me. So we're going to make our way there. We got to meet Dustin Kraft in person. If you're not familiar with Dustin, you got to check out his feed on Instagram. I love. It's just incredible. A local joint, craft cannabis. He's got JTF. He does a lot of really cool stuff. And we've talked about it before, how, he does like these press room interviews, after a game. And he's just got a different approach. And it makes a lot of sense to do it that way with so much shadow banning and accounts getting taken down. But anyways, we got to meet the man, the myth, the legend in person yesterday. So that was quite refreshing. But yeah, overall, fantastic event. What was your highlight? I've got a specific highlight.
I have a specific highlight too.
Okay, what was your highlight?
Ours might be similar. And I apologize, I cannot remember her name. They had a member of the OPP, the Cannabis Task Force there. And yeah, was that her
Goodwin.
name?
And
Goodwin.
Yeah.
And I thought, she kind of got grilled a little bit by some of the panelists, which rightfully so. A lot of people are frustrated.
Yeah.
But I thought she handled those questions extremely well. I think she did a great job of explaining, or at least providing some insight into what that task force is doing and why it's not possible to just run out, shut every illicit store down immediately.
Yeah.
And the troubles of, it's not necessarily just a money thing, because they're getting some additional budget from the government. It's more so you have to take frontline officers who are more senior into this role. You can't bring people directly out of college or directly, who have just joined the cadet.
Got to have chops.
Exactly. You got to have some chops to do this. So they have to be cautious from taking too many agents off the front line or officers from the front line.
Yeah.
But anyway, I thought she did a great job, and kudos to her for getting up there and doing that, because
that's a tough spot, man. When you've got some very frustrated operators and you're standing in that front line. Yeah, I get it. That was definitely a highlight. But one for me was when we were about to leave. We were packing up and ready to leave, and we had left, and I hear Tom and Wes, and I'm like, what the fuck? Who's that? And so it turns out it was Kyle Gordon from Medipharm's Labs, and he's like, guys, you keep me company. This is just so I'm not doing this because ego or anything, but it just feels so good to know that we have a voice in the industry. That's what, we're just here to support everyone. That's why Legacies has existed. We didn't set out on, we're going to become rich, or we're going to, where this is still the cannabis industry. We live and die by the same rules. But it was just really nice. Kyle had said, you keep me company. He's a national sales rep for Medipharm. It was just nice to hear, like, keep me company on all these drives, right? Maybe we need to put out more content, but he did leave us with a parting gift. And this isn't why I'm mentioning it. I didn't even look at this when he had given it to us. One, my eyesight is atrocious and I didn't have my glasses on. But so I think it was when we were parting ways, I'm like, oh my God, this is a 1-to-1. So Kyle blessed us with this, and I took it. So I got blessed with it. Wildlife Cannabis Co. So this is under Medipharm. This turns out I'm on the hunt for 1-to-1s. That's my go-to now. And this was golden banana. Kyle, thank you. I didn't have to break any. I was tired as hell when I got home last night. I didn't have to break anything up. I had pre-rolls. I opened this up. Okay, so I'm like, oh, this is interesting. I've never seen pre-rolls like this. I've seen them where you open the plastic, you got to squeeze here, and then they pop into a wet sink. I've done that. If you're opening those, people, be careful. Anyways, this has got a nice seal on it. And here's what struck me. Okay, they're dog walker joints, right? So they're 0.3s. They actually, so it's called Golden Banana. It's a 1-to-1. It's a hybrid, but it actually smells like banana. I think this is my.
Does it?
It does. This is my first where I've noticed a banana, air quote banana, that smells like banana. I don't know what terp causes it. If you know, leave a comment. I'm not the most informed when it comes to it, but thank you, Kyle. It was awesome to meet you, and it was a pleasure to sample these. I really like these. I don't know if I was because I was so tired, but it hit just perfectly. Finally got some dinner, grabbed one of these, and I missed Yellowstone thanks to you, Kyle. Fell asleep on the couch. Yeah. They're great though. Great format, 0.3s. Good work over there at Medipharm. So what I'd like to do is this, if we could. Our friends over at High North Labs, they've been nominated for an MJ. And from what I understand and what I've seen in the industry, now the MJ is a very prominent award or prestigious award you can win. It's through MJ BizCon. Our friends here have been nominated for Lab of the Year. And if they were to win, they will be the first Canadian lab to have won an MJ. And what I'd like to do is, if we could break this clip out, I would love to see everyone in Canada, our audience and beyond, support High North Labs, vote. So go in and vote. We'll post a link as best we can. If not, go over to the High North Labs on LinkedIn. You'll find it there, or just Google search MJs, look for the Lab of the Year, vote for High North Labs. I would love, not only are they just awesome people, an awesome, very reputable lab, they're great people, man. Like, let's see this award brought back to Canada and prove to the world we know what the hell we're doing here in Canada. So let's take it even further, where go in and vote. And when you do vote, leave a comment on this clip that you did vote on our system, please. If you reshare, another chance to enter, we will give away, because it's getting cold, we'll give away a Legacies. This is bespoke. We don't have these available anywhere. We will give away a Legacies sweater of some sort. Vote for High North Labs, please, and thank you. Awesome team, awesome people. We've got to bring this home. We got to bring it home. So everything we can do to support them. MJ's coming back to Canada for Best Lab of the Year.
Yep, I'll stick the link to the voting right down in the description as well.
Beautiful. Yeah, I got so excited when I saw that, because you don't see a lot of Canadian companies nominated one. But anyways, like, we're gonna make sure we bring that home. So I see you don't have your headphones on. And by the way, did you notice? Wearing my fancy, updated, rebranded,
it's beautiful
Origine Nature. Yes. Yeah. And Golden Goth. Guys, we were blessed with a hat and some Golden Goth. I think hard to get your hands on right now, but maybe not in the future. Alex and David Bowe over at Origine sent over a little care pack, and I open it up. I'm like, oh, a hat. I love hats. And this is beautiful. You remember I've got the nostalgic Origine Nature purple and yellow hat that I got when I was with Ample. But anyways, open the box. I'm like, wow, this is awesome. I can't wait to wear it. But here's what struck me. There was some OG style packing going on. We'll just leave it at that. With some Golden Goth, which was the number one Grow Up Cup winner. I think they won the number one spot. Kevin Varner was on there as well, and I do apologize. I forget the second place winner. It doesn't matter. I could smell it through the mason jar.
I've got it in my room right now, locked up in a
sea vault, right? Yeah, and so this was in a glass mason jar, and I could smell it through the jar. I'm not lying. I'm like, what the fuck? So I open it, and I'm like, okay, great. And then I finally got around to trying it. It is everything you could expect from a top spot winner. I'll just leave it at that. If you can find it, do yourself a favor. You will not be disappointed. But I do like my new hat. I love it.
It's the Legacies. It's the black and white with the Legacies too. It works. It just works. It's
It
great.
I everyone they think that I do actually purposely, because of the look with the set and everything. I wear a lot of black anyways. But yeah, I do purposely go out of my way to try and keep my attire black. This will probably change. Maybe it'll change for our holiday special, which
Oh,
we'll
I already.
promote more.
Yeah, I'm already going. I know I'm going in full Santa suit. Like it's
Well,
just.
this is what
It's,
we're wondering. So our very, very, very close friends, we love this team over at JointCraft. Obviously, this is where I got my start, and you got your start with John Prentice into Ample Organics. But Amy, John, Ryan, Brent, like the whole team over there, they're just honest, humble individuals. They have their new JointCraft sensory room, which is gambling or casino themed. There's no reason to get hard and heavy, Mr. Rob McPherson, on the fact that we're not going in and gambling. And how does it, right? It is, maybe there's some gambling, but when it comes to the sensory testing under Health Canada guidelines and regulation, it is for that. It is for them to test and get feedback. It is for other LPs to come in and get feedback. But anyways, I'm saying all this to say, we are doing a in-person with that team at the sensory room, a holiday special, and I'm so stoked for it. It takes a lot of planning. It takes a lot more fucking equipment too,
and
by
a
the
lot
way.
and a lot of fucking gear. I'll tell you that.
Well, you've got a new mixing board, you've got a mic. We bought a bunch of new mics. You've got in-ear headphones, guys. We're treating you right. We want you to get the same quality that we do right now, but we're going to do it in person. So we're going to be equipped to be able to go on site. We know we're trying to get on with Lune Rise. We love Marty and CJ over there. Those two are fucking characters, boy. When we do that, like I told them, I'm like, I still go back and watch clips of their stuff when they're true as kin brothers that have no problem cutting each other up. It's just hilarious.
Absolutely. Yeah. CJ Chris Johnson or CJ Johnson, whatever.
I'm CJ Chris Johnson. He's like, or I'm CJ Johnson. And Marty's like, no, you're CJ Chris Johnson. It's short for that. They're just awesome. But anyways, we're equipped now. We can do some on-sites. We're looking forward to that. And obviously we need to make a stop in Montreal or Quebec. We'll just say Quebec because there's a lot of fire coming out of there. And speaking of that, actually, we've got Rosanna coming from Heady Dab Supply. She's going to be on to talk about the events and some of the background. And I think the events are born out of the necessity of what's going on in Montreal, right? There's a lot more restriction, and not just about potency. It's about vapes and all of this. And Mendo was born from this. And but anyways, we've got a lot of really close connects that we want to visit. There's there's just so many.
Yeah, I
so
think
many.
we'd like to get to the AHA facility as well.
God.
And yeah,
there's oh my God. So there's Great White North Growers, obviously. George, love you, buddy. It was great seeing you in person yesterday. Yeah, there's so many. MTL, there is Great White, there's Ono, there's, oh my God, the list goes on and on and on. Clem & Co, which is, as everyone knows, one of my top 3 1-to-1s. Yeah, I think it'd just be an awesome
I smoked
tour.
one of those last night, by the way.
Did you
smoke one of those last night? Yeah, it's a good one to always return to. It's a homely one, and you're right. It's a completely different.
It's just different.
Such an enjoyable.
It's different.
Such an enjoyable.
And they do it very well. Yeah, like I said, I keep shifting. I like to have a top 3. I don't know why.
Oh yeah, it's If you smoke the same thing over and over and over again, it gets you like to switch it up. Yeah.
Purple Mountain Majesty by Mendo Select, obviously up there, especially because of the formats. But the taste, the blueberry that comes out, Clem & Co, their apricot cream cheese, awesome. And then Harlequin, I think Simply Bare. I need that in a larger format. Simply Bare, put your flower into a bag. Maybe it exists. I haven't seen it yet. 7 gram, 14 gram. Hell, I'll go as far as 28 gram. You want to drop an ounce in there? I'll make it happen. I'll find it. I'll get it. But anyways, those are kind of my top 3s right now. Not to say that the others that I've sampled haven't been good, but there's certain ones you stick with, right? So
If we're going top 3 right now, I guess I'll list mine as well.
you got to list yours.
Because mine aren't just 1-to-1s, right? So my top 3, I definitely say the Clemenceau as well is up there.
Really? Okay. Yeah. Good.
Pure Michigan, the
Atlantic cultivation.
Those glass tip, either the
But
gold.
is it the glass tip? Is it the glass tip or is it the weed?
It's all of it. It's all of it. They're rolled beautifully. They're just so fucking nice. So fucking nice.
Yeah.
And then what else am I got right now? And then I'm going to throw a beverage in my top 3 just because I think the beverage category deserves more, and it's still the orange cream from Sheesh.
Yeah, well,
Absolutely.
Fuck you, because I can never get my hands on it, okay? Matt, Jackie, I know it's not a distribution. Everyone wants to stock it. I don't know where the hang up is.
Well, one of the panels, I can't remember who was on the panel yesterday, but they were saying customers are coming in now stocking up on cases of their beverages. Like they're ordering 12 packs or you know.
You can, yeah.
Yeah.
If I could get my hands on one, I would fill my fridge with them.
Yeah,
I'm not even joking.
It's super nice. Yeah.
But I can't. I go in. I'm disappointed. I look at the beverage fridge and there's 3 locals that I swing by and I'm like, fuck. I'm like, there's no chance you just got an order. You got any Sheesh out pack? Is there? No, we've got a long list of people waiting. And I'm like, oh my God. So we actually have Jackie coming on. I'm gonna ride her a little bit.
Yeah, let's crank that production line up. Come on, let's get him out. Let's get him out.
Wait, what do we like, Laverne and Shirley style? Like, let's figure this out. I don't know. But I'd like to understand. Are they having trouble keeping up?
Yeah, maybe. I want a Sheesh when we do the in-studio set, when we have a fucking studio. I want a Sheesh fridge in the back. Just stocked.
We could probably make that happen. We need to look into some regs. Harrison! It was nice seeing Harrison again yesterday. But anyways, enough about our catch up and who it's nice to see. We've got Rosanna coming on from Heady Dab. She's going to talk about the event. Wicked events. There's always a lot of awesome brands that are at them. And then we've got Abi Roach, the queen herself.
Legend.
If there is, from my early days, anyone that I've followed, I've looked up to, it's Abi. And I mean, she is a hustler. She does more in this industry than anyone I can think of. Where she finds the time, no idea. Where she finds the energy, again, no idea. And I think she just had a baby not long ago.
Yeah, I remember her saying, I don't know. Apologies, Abi. We don't know. We can't remember.
We'll find out. But
yeah, but it was recent.
How do you do this? Anyways, we'll have Rosanna on when we return from this break.
Breadstack e-commerce. It might be time to upgrade.
All right, welcome back, everyone. We're joined by Rosanna Bertrand of Heady Dab Supply and Heady Dab Events. Rosanna, how are you?
I'm good, you guys.
Oh, very well, thank you. We're glad we could get you on because we wanted to help you promote Heady Dab Events. You guys are doing an awesome job with that. You're bringing in a lot of great brands, and we're like, hey, we've got a second. Let's try and get you on so you can. Who wants to hear me? I talk all the time.
No worries.
All the time. So we want you to share what's going on. So maybe if you could help us understand what Heady Dab Supply is, but also where the event was born from, because I think it had something to do with aligning with Montreal Quebec and the overregulation within your own province. But anyways, take it away.
Yes, exactly. So basically, yeah, we're in kind of close to Montreal, if I could say, on the South Shore. And we actually started out Heady Dab just to really offer our basic consultation services and stuff like that. And we saw the need for events and the lack, if I could say, especially in Quebec. And we actually did so that's when we started doing these events. We started out in Montreal. It was in a shisha lounge and everyone was dabbing. It was really awesome. We had some great brands. Such as Sauce Rosin Labs, Altacan, Nugs. So Tribal was there too, and a lot of great ones that I'm forgetting, sadly, with all the events that we did. And we saw really great collaborations and great connections happen. So we said, okay, we need to bring this in other markets such as Toronto, Ottawa, and we've had so much demand for Vancouver. That's the reason why we're doing this next one. So yeah, after that, we did our first big event, if I could say, in Toronto, which was May 25th. It was a social event. And after that, we went on for the 710 event. We did one in Ottawa. And now we are did another one in Montreal. It was a Mishui, and that also was a really awesome event. So after that, we've had a lot of demand for Vancouver. So we're bringing the fun to Vancouver. And obviously, we want to be able to see some great collaborations happen, such as the one that happened in Montreal and other ones, in fact, that are on the market right now, pulling out awesome products. So, I mean, we just want to be able to see some great connections happen like that and just bring the good old times back with all legal brands, the ones that are kicking their asses off, if I can say it like that, pulling it off and getting those SKUs on the market. Just want to shout out to them and put their hats off.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. I think that so let me understand, like, do we see some of the collabs in market now in the actual product? Are they born from some of these events and the ability for these brands to interact? Are they not normally interacting?
Yeah.
What are we seeing?
So basically, in our first event in Montreal, we had Sauce Rosin Labs that were there, and also Altacan Biologos, and also Weed and Botanic. So right now, Sauce Rosin Labs is teaming up with Weed and Botanic and also Altacan, and they're pulling up SKUs on the market, which new ones actually just came on the SKUs and all the shelves, if I could say, in I believe OCS and also possibly Alberta. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, just to be able to see, those processors that wouldn't have normally, just called each other, hey, let's do a collab and let's put out products together. Just see that happen, and it's just to see also smile on the faces of the people that come to the events, not only the LPs and processors, but really the attendees that get to speak with them and ask questions that they can't normally ask to a bud tender or.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. So I would assume that the event, and correct me if I'm wrong, is centered around dabbing. I say that, kind of jokingly, but at the same point, it sounds like there's an opportunity for not everyone dabs, right? Not everyone's into that space and they don't necessarily understand it. And some, quite honestly, they're like, I'm a little bit afraid of this. I don't understand it. Obviously there's a great opportunity here for not only bud tenders, but other individuals that are joining outside the industry to learn about dabbing and the different products that are available. Is that how that works? Or
exactly. So honestly, it's not necessarily concentrate focused. It's really just that we, Heady Dab Supply, specialize in everything that is concentrates because we know that the future is going to be in concentrates. So vapes and stuff like that, we did trainings with chemists that are over in the States and have many, many years in advance from us. So we know where the market is going. And like you said, we want to be able to inform people that are not skeptical, but don't know much and not necessarily want to just see a big torch heat up a nail and see someone dab out and smoke out the whole room,
Yeah.
So it's really that's that kind of two-part, which not only to educate the attendees, but also the LPs that are thinking of probably going towards an extract or just maybe just tempting the if I can say the world of extracts, whether it's topicals, drinks, anything.
I've never really thought of it that way. Like, I mean, you think of a flower producer, their first formats are typically, if they're going to put flower in market, would be, they're 3.5s. Then they think, we should do this in a pre-roll. And then they move towards a pre-roll. And sometimes they're infused.
Exactly.
But for those LPs or those producers, there's got to be a new world, right? Because I know a lot of master growers. I know ones that they're like, this is what I want. It's fire. That's all I care about. But then they see this opportunity. I'm not going to say it's blue ocean because there is a lot of competition in the space. But where they're like, this is very resinous flower. I think, the terps are high. I think there's a great opportunity. We always look at it and we're like, everyone's in this industry is connected, but they're not. We forget they're not actually connected. And when you're thinking down that path going, I've got really good flower, maybe I should do a rosin, maybe I should do something. This is a great opportunity, I would suspect, to be able to interact and understand their processes, how they do it. Because I mean, it's very new to me. This, Wes is like this experienced dabber all of a sudden, right? He's
hardly
all in.
Hardly taking a couple dabs and I like them, but hardly.
Where and we go the route of glass. It's a lot of stuff that I got to get. So, but I mean, this has got to be a great opportunity just to understand because there's different processors, right? And they all have different techniques to process, but I would think it's a great opportunity.
Absolutely. And there's master growers and there's trichome farmers. And usually,
wow, I've never heard that before. Trichome farmers. What the hell?
Trichome farmers are the ones that really focus on the trichome and what they're going to be able to pull out of it. So typically with solventless, obviously that's what we tend to go for because a trichome farmer is someone that watches their trichome through the whole stage of the flowering process. So they know when to cut it, when it's milky enough, so that's going to pull out a great rosin. And, they know especially the strains that need to be used for a good hash or good rosin, whatever they're looking for.
Right. I've never thought of it that way. I mean, I always paid attention to my trichomes when I was growing, but it was flour, right?
Yeah.
So it was like, okay, we're hitting here, we got 50% amber heads. We're getting pretty close. Yeah. Okay. Targeted date. Let's harvest it. It's time to take it down. But trichome farming,
Yep.
Wes, that's got to be a new one. Have you heard this before?
I haven't heard that, no, but it sounds like we need a couple sweaters with that on the back.
Trichome farmer. Do you have sweaters with trichome farmer on them?
We can do them without a problem.
It's awesome. I think that's a whole new perspective because I've never really looked at it that way. Is, for those that they know their crop is going to be for extract, why not? I mean, it makes sense.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay. I learned something new today. I love it.
Even if it's not a crop that's designed for extracts, there's still a way to pull something out of it. So that's why we want to be able to educate. So there's the fine extracts that we know it's always a trichome farmer that, if I could say, we couldn't go through. But there's also extracts such as soft gels and stuff like that you don't need to have a fire in, fire out flour to do stuff like that. And that's what we want to be able to help.
But we prefer it.
Exactly. Yeah, of course.
we always prefer it.
Absolutely.
Fire in, fire out. It's the same with data. We used to work in the world of data a lot.
Absolutely.
Garbage in, garbage out.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. So tell us about the upcoming event that's happening in Vancouver. I'll let you say.
Exactly. Yeah. So basically, this is our 6th event that we're doing. It's November 21st in downtown Vancouver. It's going to be at the New Amsterdam Cafe. And basically, as you've probably seen with the posters, we are expecting a lot of great brands, especially some new ones that, since it's in the West, people have not necessarily seen at events before. So, I mean, it's a great opportunity to get to try out and meet those people, in fact, that are behind those products. And especially, we have some people like Sweet Tooth, that is Smile Brands. And, we have Apothecary and Botanical, and stuff like that. So it's really for everyone. And since we're doing it at the New Amsterdam Cafe, it's somewhere that is close. It's really downtown, so accessible without an issue.
Perfect. That's awesome. Well, listen, congrats on that. Congrats on the success. We're going to see many more. And I mean, one of the things that I always look at are who are the brands that are attaching their names to an event. And I see some headliners in there, but also some that are a little curious. They stick a little bit underground still because they don't want to come out and be too boisterous. But obviously, you're doing things right because you've got some incredible brands that are going to be present and well represented. But congrats on that. And Rosanna, thanks so much for joining Legacies. We appreciate it.
Appreciate you guys too. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day.
Breadstack e-commerce. It might be time to upgrade.
All right. Welcome back, everyone. We're joined by Abi Roach, the legend. Needs no introduction, but I will. Abi, how are you? Thank you for joining Legacies.
I'm excellent. How are you today?
Awesome. Listen, I've always respected and looked up to all that you have done. And as of late, I'm like, we were joking about this. I'm like, where the hell do you find the time on top of everything you've got going on? There's also this small little change in your life with a baby.
Well, she's a toddler now, so it's like
still
double.
Their baby. Listen, Abi, I've got a 21-year-old, and I'm telling you, they are babies forever.
I know.
Anyway, thanks so much for joining us. I want to do something fun because I want to go way back. We're going to talk about Hotbox Cafe and how you got started into that. But I caught this on, I think it was another podcast or something, but then I saw it on Ted Lasso, and they do this best job, worst job, and all these fun things. And I want to know, before we get into Hotbox Cafe and how that came about, what is the worst job you've ever had?
Probably working for this company called Dr. Jamie's Events. It was, it was like an internship. And yeah, he was really creepy. He was like a deadhead, like an old deadhead. And his place is covered in Grateful Dead tapes and posters of Jerry Garcia. And I was like 19, and he always like massaged my back. It's very creepy. Did not last long. So that was the worst job ever. Not only endless hours of Grateful Dead, which I didn't mind at first, but it has limits. But the massages were a little over the top. So
yeah. Oh my god. Oh my god. How how far back? Because like, I mean, for the last 20 years, I'd be offside completely. It was offside and wrong to begin with, but how far back are we talking?
This would have been like probably like 1995 or 96.
Okay. Yeah.
That was kind
Wow.
of like a normal thing. But
Okay.
you know what? I started my own company when I was 20, so not far after, and no one
That's
has
probably
ever
what did it.
massaged my back since. Yeah, except for my
That'll do it. Yeah. No thanks to the back massages. I'm just gonna go do my own thing.
yeah.
Yeah. Wow. And I would assume best job is obviously what you're doing now, and obviously Hotbox Cafe as well.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I
Is it a
love
toss up?
everything that I've done pretty much since I've started my journey. I think the one of the coolest jobs I ever had, I was just a little kid and I worked at this little store. It's called Blue Moon. It was a vintage store. It was one of my first jobs when I was a teenager. I used to hand out flyers on Queen West, like back in the 90s. So Queen West was like very cool in the
Yeah.
90s. If you're from Toronto and you're over the age of
I'm
40,
not, but I
you may
remember it. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's
Yeah.
very cool. So I met all kinds of crazy people, but she really took me in and taught me everything I needed to know about sort of like merchandising and retail. And like, I spent an hour a day like putting jeans by size and shape and facing the right way. So it sounds like a silly little like teenager job, but it was really fun and interesting. And I got to meet some really crazy people. And yeah, like, for a job that I didn't pay myself, that one was pretty good. Yeah.
That's wild. That's wild. My worst, and I can keep it short, is turkey catching. I
Mm,
caught turkeys one night.
yeah.
One night. And being a 6 foot tall dude in a low ceiling turkey barn, I was bent over carrying these 30-pound toms, and I was like, yeah, I'm not doing this ever again.
Did
Like,
they
I'm
poop on
done.
your feet?
Oh my God, it was
Yeah.
disgusting. It stunk. They were ruthless. The
Yeah.
turkeys are ruthless motherfuckers.
You
They
get to
will
take any home for dinner or what? You at least
No.
get some benefits
I
out of it.
didn't
No,
get anything. Best job other than what I'm doing now when I was younger was
Mm.
dishwashing. I loved working in the restaurants.
Mm,
Loved
me
it.
too.
It was so fast paced.
Yeah.
Yeah,
When the Hot Box was a restaurant, my favorite thing to do when I needed to just clear my brain was like get into the dish pit and just do dishes for like
Okay.
2 hours. I
I'm not
loved
the
it.
only crazy one then.
No, I loved it.
It was
like
because it's
that.
satisfying, right? It's like
Nobody
there's a
talks to
mess.
you. You're
Yeah,
like, "Do
right.
dishes." You're like,
That's
"I'm not
right.
talking to dish pit."
Fucking
Yeah.
loved it. Loved it. I don't know if I'd do it now, but
Yeah.
I hate doing dishes now.
Yeah.
Anyways, I've caught it, and for those that are unaware, I mean, I know the story. I've heard the story. I've seen the story. We've talked about your story, but I'd like people, at least for our audience, because although our audience is very much made up of those in the industry, there's a lot of fringe consumers, kind of curious as well, that visit the podcast. So let's help everyone understand, how did Hotbox Cafe come to be, and
Mm.
what was it, more importantly?
Mm. Okay, we have time. Okay.
Yeah. We got about 6 hours, so let me just go
Yeah,
plug
no
my
worries.
in.
When I was, I was always very entrepreneurial. I always had my own thing going, whether I was making jewelry, selling it, on the street or at concerts, buying drugs and selling them at raves. I was always a very entrepreneurial kid. When I was 20, I took a course. It was a self-employment course. At the end, I could get a government grant, essentially a loan, for a small business. And I decided to open a head shop, which I didn't realize back then was very, very illegal. But I was really cute and really young. So I just kind of rolled with it, and people kind of helped me push it through, which was nuts now that I think back.
Wait, hold on. How did you get a grant? Did you not have to tell them what you were doing with the money?
People didn't know.
I mean, back then it's like
1999.
yeah,
like people
money,
didn't know what
no
a
problem.
bomb
We'll
was,
just hand
right?
this out. Yeah.
Yeah, like cannabis was like counterculture, right? Like, so when you
Right.
would say things, like people didn't really understand.
Got it.
And
Okay.
then when I went to go get my HST number, the security guard actually was helping me fill out the form. And he said, "What are you going to be selling?" And I said, "Oh, like, like weed stuff, like marijuana stuff." He's like, "We're going to call it gifts and glass." I was like, "Okay." And he filled out the form. And luckily, if that man did not check off that box, I wouldn't be talking to you today.
Oh
Probably.
my God.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. But we had a little store, and then we moved into a more central storefront. I was sharing it with these dudes. They were like frat boys, university frat boys. One of them broke up with his girlfriend, so they gave me the area in the front, and they lived in the back. So they were like
Okay.
wild, like university guys, like in the back with like girls coming in. I was nuts. Anyways, and then they gave me 2 weeks notice. And they're like, "Okay, we're moving out. Do you want to take over the building?" I was like, "What? It's like 1,500 square feet. The place is a mess. Like, can you imagine? It was a mess.
Oh
like,
my
there was
God.
a backyard. The backyard was like full of just garbage. It was crazy. But I had just gone to Jamaica for the first time, and I'd gone to Vancouver. I went to Blunt Brothers. That was the first lounge. And in Jamaica, I really got to experience what it was like to just be in a normalized environment where,
Yeah.
people just consume cannabis and nobody scoffs at you really. It's not very, people imagine Jamaica is very common, but it's actually, the majority is actually very church-goey, but that's a
Yes,
different story
it
for a
is.
different time.
Yeah.
Then I was very inspired, and I said, you know what? I'm gonna just turn the back into a coffee shop because that's minimal. So I took out a Home Depot card for $500, an IKEA card for $1,000. So I got furniture and I got a little bit of like wood and whatever. I had a boyfriend at the time that was very sweet, and I enslaved him, and he built the whole thing for me. The landlord was kind of copacetic with the restaurant thing, so he gave me a bit of a break on the rent. And
Nice.
with no money, I just managed to do it. And then I had a meeting with Professor Alan Young. I don't know if anyone is
Alan
familiar.
Young. Yeah.
Really
Wow.
famous, really famous lawyer. And he said, you know what, Abby, you're just aiding and abetting possession. And he essentially created like a framework of where, what I can do, what I can't do, and what would happen if I got arrested for it. And that's how we came up with the Hotbox rules. And we opened up a little coffee shop in the back, a little restaurant. And that was the end of that. So Hotbox was essentially for the first 15 years, it was a restaurant. So we had full service. We had like wake and bake breakfast. We had like nachos. We had just crazy munchies. And then in the front, we had our head shop was in the front. It was called Rotorama. And when I was younger, I worked at Chapters for a few months, if anyone remembers Chapters. So they always had
Yeah.
Starbucks to the front.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I learned from that experience is that the Starbucks was really the thing that kept bringing people back into the bookstore, and the bookstore is how we made money.
Right.
And that was, I really took that Chapters model and built it in. So the way that I built the store was, it was a full experience. So you would come in, my staff was trained to talk to you a certain way, show you certain things, and then they would go to the back. People would get high, they would have food, and then on their way out, they'd be like, "Oh yeah, that cool bong," and
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
walk out with like a $200 cart. But they
Right.
would come every day because there was coffee and food and community that we built around it. And at the base of it, we really wanted to normalize cannabis use.
Hmm.
I wanted the experience of coming to a coffee shop just being normal. There's
Yeah.
nothing exciting about it. Cannabis wasn't exciting. It was just a part of everyday life, and
Right.
that's how we moved a social change.
Hmm.
And throughout the years, I added stuff to Hotbox. We had a nightclub, a cannabis nightclub. It was kind of
Cool.
built around like rave culture. We had a sort of a vintage shop. It was called Funky Junkie, and it was attached to the Hotbox, and it was supposed to be an extension of like, this is where people go to buy their housewares after
Yeah.
they get high. So we had just like weird stuff, everything from like Mr. T to like Gucci, right? We just had like just crazy stuff.
That's awesome.
Just shit the stoners love. Pardon my French.
No, go
I
ahead.
had we had a Hotbox in Jamaica for 8 years. It was a bed and breakfast. It was actually the first
Wow.
bed and breakfast in the world. I think
What? This is news to
Sativa
me.
Sisters. Yeah, Sativa Sisters in Vancouver was the first ones, but
Okay.
they had closed long before. And
Okay.
we were
Okay.
like long operating. We had a tour company and whatever else not. Anyways, I did stuff.
Yeah. A
We
little
had
bit.
we had brands. We had media, like we ran media that was called Spliff out of it. That we did a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest thing that we did was that we normalized cannabis and we
Yeah.
brought legalization. And I think that's one of the greatest achievements next to selling coffee. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, and that's the thing that I can align with is all of your early days work certainly paved the way to our legalization, right?
Mhm.
Everyone's like, the OGs, the legacy market, yes, but let's frame that for a second and understand it's one thing just to broad stroke it and say
Mhm.
this is what happened, but not realizing the stories, which is why we exist. We want to be able to share these stories. Let me ask you this question though, because as you're going through it, you're talking about, being able to visit the cafe and get a coffee and all this. And I'm like, how far away are we from this happening again in Ontario, right? Because we know Atlantic region, certain provinces will allow. I think Oceanic has their coffee
Yeah.
or cafes, but are we ever going to see that in Ontario specifically?
So here's what I always say. An entrepreneur will always be a good entrepreneur, because anyone can be an entrepreneur. Not
Yeah,
anyone
sure.
can be a good entrepreneur. will look at the regulations and find not the loopholes, but the gray areas. Like regulations aren't meant to be exact. Regulations are a framework of what you're allowed to do and not allowed to do. And there's always a gray area in the middle. I wasn't allowed to do what I did for 20 years. I wasn't allowed to do any of it. But somehow I managed to find that gray line in the law. So I think if you look at, in Ontario, for example, if we look at the Smoke-Free Ontario Act, there is room within the act that will allow consumption to happen. I think Lit Research took advantage of one loophole. One that I always talk about, I'm amazed that no one's called me to partner up with them on it, is that you're allowed to have consumption, full smoking consumption within a hotel or a bed and breakfast. That's considered a domain, a house. And you can actually have a gift shop, which is within your hotel. You can have a lounge. You're allowed to smoke anywhere where you can consume cigarettes. So you can create a nice lounge, and you're allowed to consume edibles and ingestibles anywhere. There's no
what the hell
around it.
I wasn't. I never thought of the bed and breakfast side and the hotel side.
Yeah, totally, exactly.
Crazy.
And you're allowed to deliver to domains, so you could actually have room service that would go into those rooms. So there's a lot that can happen. You just need to be creative with the framework that's given to you. The government, no one is chomping at their feet right now to allow people to smoke. It's not going to happen, right? Sorry to break it to everybody who wants it to happen, but smoking is something that the government and health critics have fought for a long time. And there is no politician out there that will stick their neck out and say, I want people to smoke indoors again.
Could you imagine? That's political suicide.
Yeah, exactly. But, I spent many, many years, I would say from 2012 up to when I sold the hot box in 2019, doing a lot of lobbying around this topic, which is why in Ontario, you're allowed to consume cannabis anywhere where cigarettes can be consumed and vape wherever, right? There are ways to do it. You just need to think of how to do it and figure it out.
Get creative. And you have certainly gotten creative over the years. That is for sure. So I know you had sold the hot box. Is that operational or under another name now? And that was 2019, right?
So from what I understand, I sold it to the Friendly Stranger.
Oh,
who was then purchased by Fire and Flower, who was then purchased by Fika. So the Fika Group is the owner currently of Hotbox, and they actually released flower under Hotbox. Yeah. So it exists. I've reached out and said, hey, you want help? But they weren't interested. So it's all good. I have other jobs to do.
Yeah,
I don't think more.
And then, so after that, what did you do after 2019? What was that time in between? Because I know that you spent some time with OCS, which obviously I'll let you explain. And then Mira, and then Jane Dope. Dope is so dope. And Herb. We want to talk about Herb as well and the launch. But so that little transitionary period, 2019, you're sold. You're like taking my multi-millions and running.
I wish.
Right? Yeah, we wouldn't be doing this. We'd be in Jamaica. Right? Tom, I'm in Jamaica right now. Come on down. Let's go.
I wish. No, I was going to stay with Hotbox. I had a position that was open for me in brand and marketing, which I think would have been really exciting. But when we were going through the sale, I saw an ad on LinkedIn for a senior category manager for flower at the OCS. And I was like, you know what? I haven't put a resume to the world in 20 years. I was like, I could do this. And I put it in, and the woman who was the CCO at the time was a bit of a fangirl. And I went through 3 interviews, and I was like, wow, I can't believe I've gone this far. And I remember going for my last interview, and I saw my friend Pete outside. I don't know if anyone knows Pete Shearer. He Fifth, and anyways, he does a bunch of stuff. He's fantastic. And I saw him in the lobby after I finished. I was so happy. I was so proud of my interview. I was like, I got this job. And then I saw him in the lobby. I'm like, damn it. Pete's here. So and then they actually decided to create a job for me. So Pete did get the job. He did get the job. And then they created a job for me. They wanted to, I guess they wanted to figure out how to get people to want to buy legal cannabis. Something that I'm pretty good at doing. So I was the senior product manager for merchandising. So my job was essentially to work with all the merchandising department cross-functionally across the entire OCS to look at different avenues and different channels of, what makes people tick, what would they want to buy legal cannabis, right? So that was really great. Then they moved me into senior category. I purchased all the pre-rolls, concentrates, and accessories for the province for a couple of years.
Mhm.
And then at age 43, I got pregnant magically. I don't know what happened
Magically.
there. Magically. I don't know what
Magically.
happened
Is
there.
it
But
immaculate conception?
yeah, that wasn't that far off. But I was like, I was pretty old. And they put me in a sort of lower position where I was doing a lot of strategic stuff. So over the years, I worked on a lot of the programs that you see now. I worked on flow through. I worked on the product call. I worked on farm gate, like all the different projects that we
Yeah.
have now. I was the lead for merchandising on those. So there's quite a bit of my input in it, which
Yeah.
I'm very proud of.
But how smart of them. Like like seeing a talent, seeing the amount of knowledge that you possess to go, we don't know yet. We need her. We're not sure. We're going to create this. But I mean, it's a great opportunity, one for you,
Yeah,
because now you get exposed to this world of legal
totally.
cannabis and what's going on. Okay, what's the wizard behind the curtain, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, we're hard on OCS, we're hard on H, and I don't mean to, not as assholes or anything like that, but and it's just because we can. I think I'm not saying just us. I mean, in general, everyone on the
Yeah.
legal side is like OCS is doing this, and
There's a
AGCO is
lot
doing
of
this. And it's like, come on, guys,
yeah,
there's a
it's
lot going on here,
it's a lot of misinformation. People talk to me
right?
all the time. I'm like, no, that's really
Yeah,
not how it is. Yeah. They're like, you don't know. I'm like, yeah, I do know. I was blessed to have the opportunity to go work there and work with some incredible people. I learned more than one can imagine. I always say I did an MBA in legal lead.
yeah,
And I really got to learn the industry and get to know everybody in the industry back and forth. I got to look at data on a minute by minute basis of like
yeah,
what's working, what's not working. So it was really exciting. It was a really exciting opportunity. But after I had the baby, I always say it's nice to work for the government in merchandising when you don't come from cannabis. But when you
right.
come from cannabis, it's really hard. Just this conflict of interest, right?
Sure, yeah,
So, I decided when I had the baby, I was like, it'd be nice if my baby had like a community and I had friends again and I could like leave my house,
Mhm.
and like go places without declaring it, that kind of stuff. So yeah,
Yeah,
get
yeah,
samples, yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
so it was a personal choice. It wasn't anything else. It was just, I just wanted to be a
It was
private citizen.
time.
I
Yeah,
just want to be a private citizen again. And I
yeah,
had so many ideas and things that I wanted to do that I just couldn't do if I was working there again due to
right,
conflict of
right.
interest.
Well,
And I
that
really want to do that. So
that
I just-
knowledge you would have gained there, obviously, with having your background, but the knowledge picked up there because I know that you helped usher
yeah,
a ton of products and brands into the industry. But I mean,
yeah,
you've got firsthand witness to this works, that doesn't work. I'm
yeah.
helping here. I know what you need to do here because,
Mhm.
we, from what we've gathered and spoke with various brands and LPs, etc. Working with Ontario ain't easy, and
Yeah.
getting your product listed even tougher. Flow through one thing, but a GL, now we're
Mhm.
talking completely
Yeah.
different set of rules, right? What was that experience that you draw from? But also, who did you help bring to market? Because you also had your own in a few of those, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, well, while I was there, some of the most memorable things that I got to market that I'm proud of. I remember the infused pre rolls.
Yeah,
I was the one that brought them in. I remember bringing some infused pre rolls from the Legacy market and giving them to my directors and stuff, and be like, "This is what we're talking about," because they just didn't understand
right.
what I was trying to say. Like, this is what this product is.
Yeah,
So bringing in all the infused pre-rolls, I was very proud of. I built out the concentrate category. When I picked it up, it was a bunch of like black
oil.
shatter, like it was
Yeah,
like
yeah,
black shatter. I don't
yeah.
know. I'll say it again. It's
Oh yeah.
black shatter.
No, that
Um,
ain't right. And it's something wrong there. That's for
yeah,
sure.
totally.
Yeah,
I brought in a lot of because I recognize people, right? I'm like, oh, you're from the
yeah,
Legacy market. You hung out of the hot box, right?
yeah.
So I managed to bring in a lot of legacy players,
Mm,
rosin heads. I was like,
yeah.
hey,
Love
yeah,
Todd. Yeah.
yeah. So, rosin heads was a big one. Bubble Man I brought to market when he came to Ontario. I gave him a lot of big ups. And then like, for example, Animal Face, the 3 by 0.5
Yeah,
pre-roll.
yeah,
I
Carmel.
remember
Yeah,
I said, we had a thing every product call, like who was the winner. And I
yeah.
said, this is my winner. Like, this is going to be the one that's the winner. And everybody was like, what do you mean? A 3 by 0.5? What do you mean it's going to be the winner? I'm like, Animal Face is caramel. Trust me.
And it's
Like, it's
still
like,
around. It's still
and
there.
it's still the number one. And I
Yes.
remember it came in, and at the time, Reddy's was really hot. And I remember I looked at the data, the launch week, and my Animal Face was at like number 1 or number 2. I was like, yeah, I got this one. So sometimes like it was just like my gut check from just being a buyer for so long at the hot box. Like, I did all the purchasing for the store. So my gut check on products and brands is very, very powerful.
Yeah.
And then when I left there, during my my maternity leave, I had a book of brands that I created essentially. And 2 of my brands were called Greasy, and there's one called Liddy. Liddy
Love
was
Greasy.
yeah,
Love Greasy. When that hit the market, I'm like, oh, that's really good.
yeah,
This
yeah,
is gonna
yeah.
go.
And that was one of my small potato brands.
Yeah.
I still have another about 20 something brands in my book that haven't even like
Jeez.
seen the light of day. But Liddy is now 4% of the Ontario market,
Wow.
I think.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Holy
Yeah.
smokes,
Yeah,
congrats.
yeah. So and Greasy is really doing well. And I just gave it to them. Mara gave me a good job, and it was
Yeah.
exciting to work there. But I just gave it to them. I'm not gonna, but I'm very proud of the fact that those hit pretty hard. And I had a very niche and specific demographic that I was hitting with both
Yeah.
of those products
Okay.
and both of those brands. And I think that's where you really win. Because if you understand your consumer, if you try and be everything to everyone, you're gonna fail. And this
Thank
is what
you.
I
Thank
learned.
you for saying that.
And this is what I learned about the hot box, right? Like, remember at the beginning of this conversation, I said I did all this stuff, and like I couldn't even name you all the stuff that I
There's
did.
no way. Yeah.
No way. But if I just focused all my energy on the one thing that I did really, really well, I would have been a freaking millionaire right now.
Well, and you should be, and you will, it will come, right? But the thing is, let me ask you this, because we see this all the time, Abby, which is you see a brand. I'm not going to mention any brands. I'm not going to mention any categories.
Yeah.
Sometimes get in trouble. But I want you to explain the importance of understanding the demographic for a product you are creating and about to bring to market, because we see so many times a brand is doing very well in a specific category.
Mhm.
It could be just flour, right? Flour, good formats. And then they go, we're going to do a vape.
Yeah.
And we're like, why the fuck are you doing a vape when you are so successful there? And then you see it just drop. Like it comes to market.
And
So-
it's not a brand aligned vape is the problem. It's not that it's a vape. It's not crossing.
No, it's not as it's a vape. It's exactly. So explain the importance of that. And I just want people to hear it from you with so much experience, because I could go blue in the face explaining this and talking about it, and it just doesn't register for some reason.
Your brand has its own personality. Your brand is its own thing. It's almost like a corporation is its own person. A brand is its own person. It has its own voice. It's got its own look. And it communicates. A good brand will communicate with its consumer directly as one of them, right?
Mhm.
So understanding what that consumer is looking for in experience is key. If me and you are having a conversation, and we're talking about cannabis and fun and whatever, and all of a sudden I flip over and I start talking about like opera music and like and
Don't you hate on opera music now?
well, I'm not hating on opera music, and you just flip the conversation and you'll be like, what? Like,
Exactly. Yeah. What are you talking about?
Listening to like Wu-Tang, like
Yeah. Now we're
opera,
talking
like, and it has
yeah.
one has nothing to do with the other. So it's a little off-brand.
Yeah.
A great example is with the brand that I'm releasing now with Herb. It's really focused. It's for men as well, but our main key demographic is women of a certain age, of a certain demographic area. I'm very, very specific and niche about who it is, and I've had 3 different processors in the last week be like, "Why don't you do hash?" And I'm like, what woman do I know in her mid 30s to 40s that does bottle tokes or roll hash? Not any of them. It stinks. I don't want to smell like hash. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No offense to hash, love hash. But it's just not something that my demographic is
Right.
into. It wouldn't fit. Right.
Yeah.
So point is, like, you have to understand who your purchaser is and understand what their purchasing needs are, not even like
Mhm.
the type of products, but what are they looking for in their
Yeah.
experience? My consumer is looking for something different than, a countryside, for example,
Right.
right?
Right.
Just different demographic. And if you can really hit and deliver on what they're looking for, you're going to be successful.
Well, that
Abby,
makes
I have
sense.
a quick question. On the heels of the cannabis retail summit was yesterday for
Yeah.
VIP Meter Group. They had a bunch of independent retailers there, all getting great knowledge from the panels on how to be a successful retailer, what's working for independents and what's not.
Mhm.
As someone with that experience, both building brands and working for the OCS, do you have any advice for these independent retailers when they're shopping that OCS catalog, what to look for in successful products and picking out those winners?
So, first off, your retail brand and your retail experience has the same parameters as a brand. You have to understand where you're located. You have to understand who is shopping and who you're servicing. That's your number one. So a store that is maybe on Queen West will serve something a little bit different than a store in Timmins, right?
Mhm.
There's a different demographic. So really looking at the assortment from the eye of the customer. And what I used to do when I had my stores is I would, first thing in the morning, the first thing I would do is I would walk through the counters and I would look at my store from a consumer lens. I would leave myself at the door and I would just look at my display cases and be like, does this look good? What is it missing? And then look at your data, right?
Mhm.
And understand what it is that people are actually looking for within your store. So, follow the data and don't look at your store from your own lens. Look at your store from your consumer's lens. That is the key.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it was shocking to me. So I had the privilege of moderating one of the panels. It was about the future of cannabis retail, and
Mhm.
Sarah England from the OCS was on. She leads the data side. And I don't know if it was the pre-meeting or during that panel, because it gets quite loud at those events, but she had said I think it's actually dropped. About 10% of retailers are utilizing the data, and I
Mhm.
wouldn't say retailers, it's the market in total
Mhm.
are utilizing, but it's actually dropped to about 9%. I would think, like, I just asked the question, why? Why? Like, this data is available. I get certain analytics subscriptions are expensive. I get that.
Mhm.
But at the same time, to me, I always say that's like setting sail without any charted course whatsoever and
Yeah.
just hoping you're going to make it, you're going to find shore somewhere.
Yeah. And I think a big issue is because the margins are so thin and operation cost is so high, the rent, the staff, everything is so expensive, but your margins on cannabis are so thin. Um, and there's so much dependence on data programs and, whatever, gray area that you could find to make extra
Yeah.
cash,
Yeah.
that you're focusing on bringing those brands in. And those brands are dominating. Those who play in sort of that like area are really dominating the space, right? So
Yeah.
those inflated sales that you're seeing are also very skewed, and not allowing you to make good decisions. Every store has a POS. Every store has their Shopify or
Mhm.
whatever it is that has your sales data. But again, it's going to be skewed if you're selecting in a skewed way.
Yeah.
So, there's look at the
Yeah.
I just say look at the data, but the data is also skewed
Yeah, but then
because
you go, which
yeah,
data, right? Like, what
yeah,
data do you want to
exactly.
look at? Do you want to look
You
at my
know,
own? Do you want to look at, like, there's a
but
lot.
what data I actually really love is Headset. Headset
Okay.
pulls data from about 60-70% of retail stores, but they pull it from sales data, not from the wholesale level. So you
Right. Okay.
actually get to see the pattern, not by brand necessarily, but by product of what it is that customers are actually buying in store. And I think that is really, really key and important data. I think it's sad that we're in a space right now where the stores can't, they don't want to break away from the core,
Mhm.
and explore a little bit. What I like about flow through is that it allows, smaller brands to come in and have just more unique offerings to market that
Yeah.
maybe don't exist in the core. But you also, a big missed opportunity is accessories, right? Like accessories, you can mark up accessories to wherever you want them to be. You can buy whatever you want for your store essentially, and you can differentiate yourself on just accessories alone. You can also, I did a project when I first started the OCS. My director at the time asked me to do this very cool project. And it was just reimagining cannabis retail in the future. And what kind of stores do we need to purchase stock for?
Okay.
So I had about 50 different concepts that I came up with. Some of them were like baked goods and like candy shops that were very edible focused. I had one that was like just a vape shop. All they sold was vape carts, and we
Yeah.
have enough of this type of assortment in the catalog right now that you could literally just open a store only for vapes, only for topicals, right? And
Crazy.
really get creative within that environment and create something that's completely different. So when you're on a strip that has 5 mega chains and you're the independent, you can really stick out by
Yeah.
doing something completely different, by merchandising your store away from what everybody else is doing and stocking it with high value of, high margin products. So now not only do you have a really unique cannabis offering that's completely different than the, your 5 chain stores that are on the block, they're only stocking whatever is paid shelf space,
Hmm.
data deal. Pardon,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
And you have the opportunity to accompany that with assortment of accessories, from clothing to bongs, pipes, whatever you want to do that matches your store with way higher margins,
Yeah.
right? You could
I
double
love that.
stuff. Yeah.
What a cool project to get to work on, one. But
Yeah.
let me ask you about this with the flow through, because I think the introduction of flow through, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it was to allow these brands that are not getting the GLs to be able to make their way to market. But we've
Mhm.
heard, this is where, if you've got a general listing and you're pushed down to flow through, this is where brands go to die. And I get a lot of conflicting information, or at least viewpoints on it.
Mhm.
Just curious what yours are.
I think that people are naysayers and people don't know how to think outside of the box that they've been given. So if you think that having the opportunity to not ever have an RTV, like you never get a return to vendor, then
Yeah.
that is where brands gonna die. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
When you just get $500,000 because your shit never
Yeah.
sold, and you
I
were
think that's the
committed to
scariest
sales
fucking
for 10
acronym in
years.
this. That's the scariest acronym in this industry,
Exactly.
right? RTV. What the fuck? I can't afford
So
to bring that back.
right. And so this is something I said to many, many people, when I consult. I said, if you go on a general listing and you inflate your sales to an unrealistic point, so you place yourself within data deals but you never do any consumer sales,
Hmm.
and then all of a sudden you're in general listing, but customers don't actually want what you have. You just bought shelf space but never sold it.
Right.
RTV is coming,
Yeah.
right? And then right. So I think flow through is a really unique way to be able to speak to the independent stores away from sort of that core of like, you have to carry this, and position yourself in a very, very unique way. When we looked at stores that we want to work with, something that someone told me once is the unicorn store. So it's like a store that maybe, doesn't make a gazillion dollars a day, but they sell a lot of your product because it's brand aligned. So
Hmm.
when yesterday, I think we shipped out like 50 sample packs or whatever of herb product. And, I really wanted to select stores that are going to be unicorn stores that are brand aligned and have the customer base that I have, right?
Hmm.
And be able to service that customer base without maybe having to pay for it, just on
Yeah.
the merit of like a very cool product and very cool brand.
I
So
love it.
yeah.
I love that. Yeah. What a great way of looking at it.
Mhm.
I do want to, so I want to understand more about Herb. We're going to get there. But first, Jane Dope, what was the thought process behind it? The eureka moment and the success? Because I mean, you're doing all these things and you're like, I'm going to take this course too and, and learn the SEO side of everything. Because I mean, you're hitting it. You are hitting it. Like
Yeah,
you are getting a ton of traffic.
a ton.
One, I mean, it speaks a lot to how bold the brand is
Mhm.
and your position in it, but you've shared it. I've seen it. And I'm like, holy shit, that is
Mhm.
a lot of traffic. So
Mhm.
take it away. Talk about Jane Dope.
So Jane Dope came to me when I was actually still at the OCS. And the eureka moment, I was in a meeting with an LP, 2 other category managers, and my director, all males.
Okay.
And the fellas on the call said, we're doing a woman's brand. This is what we're doing. It's like CBD, flower, and low this, and pink, and purple, and bows, and
And you're
ties, and
cringing
whatever.
the whole time,
And I
going,
said,
"What?"
no, I said, I'm a woman. Why would I buy this? And they
I
could
could
not
literally see and hear
answer.
you saying that. What?
Yeah,
What?
it freaked them out. And and I thought about all my girlfriends. Like, we're all drug dealers. Like, literally every single me, all my girlfriends were all drug dealers, whether legal or not. We've been drug dealers
Yeah.
forever, right? Like, if you look at my close group of girlfriends, like, we're all drug dealers. Not a single one of them take CBD. Not a single one of them like pink, right? Like,
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
all like, they all dab. They hit like 90% vapes. They like smoke premium weed. If you give them shitty weed, they're like, what's this? I'm not,
Yeah.
this is my backwood. So
Oh my
right?
God, you just brought back PTSD the first time I was trying to get those damn things unrolled.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
I
Anyways.
can't do them. Yeah, but so Jane Doe came to me as just like Jane Doe is a dead woman. It's a woman who does not speak. She does not have a face. She's just like what I'm expected to be, and I have never been. Right? It's like,
Right.
yeah, it's sort of like you just sit quietly in the background and
Yeah.
just be nameless and don't say anything. Whereas like I am a loud and opinionated woman, and I'll just tell you what it is. And I don't say that from a woman's perspective. It's just who I am. And I've worked in cannabis for almost 30 years now, and I've moved at 20 kgs at a time, 100
Yeah.
kgs at a time. These days I'm selling 500 kgs at a time.
Right. Yeah.
So, and I've always been sort of like the woman in a sea of men. At some points, the only woman at a huge sea of men.
Right.
So I have no fear. I'm just like, whatever, like it's fine. I play with the boys same way. And Jane Dope to me is the complete opposite. It's this, right? It's a woman who, has her stuff together, pays her own mortgage, leads her own life, smokes nice weed, likes to get high, and isn't afraid to show it, right? And has an opinion. So really that is where the brand came to be. And I remember I was talking to my girlfriend at the OCS, and I was like, I want to make a t-shirt that just says be dope, be Jane Dope, and she loved it. So yeah, that was when I went on maternity leave. I did this like mini MBA course from Rotman's business school.
Mhm.
And my project was Jane Dope. So I really got to like flesh out the branding, the concept, the just everything about it. And then I kind of put it aside when I was working at Mara. I did mention it to them when I first started. I'm like, God, this cool brand. And they're like, oh yeah, that's cool. We'll take the other two. And but yeah, and then someone else came out with the brand called Jane Doe, I remember, and I was like, no, you
Really?
can't.
I don't remember that. Okay.
Exactly, you don't remember
Yeah.
it. Exactly, because
Yeah.
a bunch of dudes making a brand for women and calling
Ah,
it Jane
yeah.
Doe with the DOE, which is a dead woman.
Yeah.
So right away I was like, screw these guys. And I kind of jumped out and I was like, I just launched it. I just like went all
Nice.
in, no money. I was like, I'm just doing it. And I kind of just, figured out the supply chain on my own, all the design I do on my own. Just, yeah, I'm
I
like a
love it.
one-woman show. Yeah. And then I have, I've got one young lady that I took on to help me with sales for the cannabis end.
Yeah.
She works very part-time, but yeah, me and her just crush it. We're just
That's
like crushing
awesome.
life. Yeah.
I love the retro vibe. Obviously, High Flyer side, we're very retro about it. It's very nostalgic, and when I saw it, I'm like, man, I'm in love with this. I love that retro vibe. So then we fast forward, although there's not a huge time in between to Herb, right? Um, Tell us about Herb, because I love. There's some innovation happening here too, right? Like things that we're not seeing. So I mean, obviously we can tell by your story and what you've told us so far why, but at what point did you go, no, you know what, I'm doing it on my own this time. I've got to do this. How did that come about?
It was always a part of the plan. But because he can't have a mass market brand
Mm,
crossed over with a cannabis brand, I didn't want Jane Dope to live behind an age gate, right?
okay.
Like I wanted Jane Dope to just be open and just be clothing. You could just like
Yeah.
you could buy this jacket anywhere. You don't have to think about it. I want
Hmm.
my makeup. We have a line of makeup as
Yeah, I
well.
saw that.
I'll be
Yeah.
focusing on more next year. It's in my my roadmap, but I want that to live in like Shoppers Drug Mart. Like I
Very
don't want
cool.
that to be age gated. And then also because I can't use the word cannabis in anything, it gets flagged. In
Right.
Jamaica, you say herb, right?
Yep.
Like
Yeah.
that's, you say ganja, you
Herb
say
and
something.
ganja.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
But herb
licenses are
is
still ganja. They, like when the licensed producers in Jamaica, it says licensed to produce ganja
yeah, yeah, yeah,
from the
yeah. No,
CLA. I'm
that's a
like,
common
no,
word.
that's baller. I like that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's a word, right? And I
Yeah.
can tell you the backstory of that as well. But herb is what I decided to go with because it's HER.B. So it's
Hmm.
herb, but it's also herb, like Jamaican herb, like.
Right.
Anyway, so
Love it.
just everything about it, but it's herb. And then I had a smart alecky lawyer who I'm sure many know, but he said, why don't you just use the corporation Jane Dope Inc. and license the brand herb? And then
Ah.
technically you're allowed to say that it's licensed by Jane Dope. So if you look at all our packaging, it says herb, and then inside of the logo, it says licensed by Jane Dope.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's wild.
See, smart aleck
Very smart.
lawyers. You gotta have
Yes.
one.
You do. You need those lawyers that go beyond. Like, don't tell me what I can read myself.
Yeah.
Figure it out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what I mean by having that, you got to be able to read the regs and figure out where can I play, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to
Yeah.
jump 100 feet ahead. I just want to play an inch. Give me an inch. Where do I go?
Yeah.
So I thought that was very cool. And then my day job right now is I work for a company called McIntyre Creek. We specialize in fresh frozen flour for extraction. So we have dry, which is our live flour, but it's all living soil organic, certified organic, GACP, beautiful BC bud.
Yeah.
So I love my day job. I think it's awesome. I get to sell
Sounds like it.
hundreds of kilos of flour a day, and just talk to some really great people and work with a lot of great processors. So the whole product line that we're launching was all designed by myself. All the packaging, I worked with the packaging company to come up with great solutions. I worked with, I sourced my own flour. I sourced my own processors. I came up with formulations. And I just came up with a very cool product line while working with my peers in the industry that I've gotten to work with over the years. So it's
Yeah.
really exciting. So we have the live flour is from McIntyre. That's coming out. That's the first in Canada. And
I am
come out.
so pumped to try that. Like when you
Yeah.
told me when we met, I'm like, wait, what? How does that work? I don't
Yeah.
understand this.
And it's totally different. People are like, oh, it's doesn't smoke the same way. It doesn't feel the same way, but the high is great. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's because it's literally alive. The flour is the same as it was the day it was cut off. We grow for extraction. So the trichome heads are huge and fat and really beautiful. And then the flour gets cut down at peak trichome growth. It goes into minus 36 degrees. It gets trucked in minus 36 degrees, goes into a freezer at minus 25. And then our sister company has a humongous freeze dryer that does about 450 kgs per day. And yeah, it does food and fruit and all kinds of stuff in there, as well as cannabis.
Wow.
It's very cool. So we do essentially a freeze dry on it, which means we take all that moisture out that was frozen, but it keeps all the cannabinoids and the trichome heads and everything fresh. So nothing is actually cured, nothing is aged. It's all very, very fresh. And then we do a moisture cure on it to bring it back up to 12% moisture. And that's your live flour. So when you smoke it, when you crush it, it's people are like, oh, the stem is so soft. I'm like, yeah, this is literally that's the way the stem feels.
So there's no other product. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Yeah. There's no other product like this in Canada, but is there any other product like this in the world right now?
In the US, there's one other company that's doing it. Yeah.
This is the first I've heard of it. Wow.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Awesome.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm pretty pumped. And then we also have what I did is I took the freeze dry and I ran that same flour. So the live flour, instead of doing a fresh frozen extraction, I ran the live flour in full nug. We just milled it down to the proper mill size for the machine, for the hydrocarbon machine. And we extracted that. So our hydrocarbon live resin and crumble is actually from the same flower as the live flower. So it's
Oh
all
wow,
single grain.
very cool.
And then we did the live resin. We blended it with a liquid diamond in a rose gold encased hardware. It's
Yeah,
freaking awesome.
it looks awesome.
Yeah, it's really good. It lights up JD at the bottom, like Jane
Yeah,
Doe.
yeah.
Back on it. It looks like Tiffany's. It's really hot. And the flavor is really unique. It's because we use it's all, there's no fertilizers, there's nothing in the flower itself. It's
Yeah.
got like, you can really taste like the earthiness of the flower.
Nice.
It's really creamy, kind of rich. It's really nice. But then the it's 90%. So the THCA is like just
Yeah,
like
wow.
awesome. But not like
Wow.
I know I had a bunch of it yesterday. I was really high. But I yeah. But I it's beautiful because like the high is very, very like just euphoric and there's never a crash. So it's not like
Nice.
distillate, like where you like
Oh,
get
yeah.
really high and then you're like, I'm done.
Yeah.
You just don't get tired. You just go.
So
And then we did an infused pre-roll, which has the live flower milled. And then we blended the live resin crumble. So again, same live resin from the same
Mhm.
batch of flour. So it's all single strain into a fully living pre-roll. And then the pre-roll is actually in a balloon cone. So the tip of the cone is beeswax of the heart.
Yeah.
And it has wildflower seeds. And when you take the tip and the filter tip and you plant it, in 9 months you'll get a full like
Amazing.
garden.
I think it's so
Yeah,
fucking
so-
cool.
I
Like
know,
I'm like
it's
I'm so
so
I don't
nice.
know if I've ever been more excited about a product launch. Like when I
thank
saw it
you.
coming out, I was like, I just love everything. Number one, same strain, same flour being used. Love,
Mhm.
love, love.
Across everything. Yeah.
Across everything. And then, but I
Collection.
mean, the innovation, I'm like, just like chomping at the bit to get my hands. I'm like, what is this live flour? What is this? What is it? Freeze dried? What do we got? Freeze dried over here? No, it's not
Yeah.
freeze dried.
Yeah,
But-
no,
And then I'm like, oh my God. And then you go to the filter. Now, let me ask you this.
yeah.
Did this cone exist or was it something that
Yeah.
you're like, can we do this? Because who else? I don't think anyone else is even using
No,
it.
it's an American company. I bumped into them at like some weird trade show. They were like in the corner and they were giving these filter tips out. And I was like, do you guys do coke? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, do you have like paperwork on this? Like, will this pass Health Canada? They're like, I think so. It's like right on. So yeah, I hooked up with
Wow.
those dudes and yeah, it's
You need to lock that shit down and go, okay,
I
exclusively
know,
it's
I know.
mine.
But
No
you
one
know
else
what?
can use it.
the lifespan of a SKU is about a year.
Oh,
So by
yeah.
the time that someone else steals all my stuff, I'll be like,
Yeah.
next.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Look what
like-
I've got. I've got,
Yeah.
right? And you'll be
Oh,
like,
you
yeah,
don't
been
even
there,
know.
done
Like,
that.
Our product roadmap is like there's some like really great stuff. Like the next drop is kind of like just an extension, but the one after it is really exciting. But I'm not going to tell
Oh
you
my
what it
God.
is. Yeah.
Yeah. You can tell me off cam.
Yeah.
We'll talk
And
about
I have
it.
a
Yeah.
bougie bag where we just partner with like craft growers around Ontario. Our first is Glitter Bomb, so it's a seed junkie genetic. And when
Oh,
we did the
wow.
market research, there were half the one wanted like really premium, and the other half wanted just a lower THC. So the live flower is more for that crowd. And then
Mhm.
the bougie bag, the Glitter Bomb, my specs for it are literally lots of trichomes. Like we
Yeah.
love trichomes. My whole thing about this brand is trichomes. Like I
Yeah.
believe that if you could have the craziest weed percentage from your lab or whatever, but if your weed isn't caked in trichomes or isn't extracted from like high quality trichomes, you ain't got shit.
Yeah.
So
Well,
yeah.
I learned the term. Actually, we had Rosanna from Heady Dab on earlier, and she mentioned trichome farmer, and I'm like, whoa, hold on.
Yeah.
I've been around weed a long fucking time. This is the first I've heard trichome farmer,
Mhm.
and I'm like, but it makes total sense. I'm
Yeah.
like, because when I produced it was all flower. It's flower. Oh, we know when to harvest. We look at the trichomes. Okay, good. We're gonna harvest it. But then I'm like, but hold on, Marcus and everyone like this, they must be looking for flower that was
Mhm.
produced by a trichome farmer. They are specifically
Yeah.
trying to pull the rosin out of this.
Yeah.
It
Exactly.
makes sense. So I learned that, which is awesome. I just love learning new things. But
Yeah.
so when you're looking at, I mean, man, you rock my world with so much going on. Seriously, I don't know how, like, I can't keep track of some of it, but like when it comes to the roadmap, I mean, that's a long ways out. How do you project that far? Like, but at least you said it. Here's the thing, Abby, I love you for this. You say, listen, skew death it's real. Like, we're talking a year,
Mhm.
unless you're animal face, by the way, congrats again.
Yeah.
Right. Carmel, congrats again. Chris,
Right.
congrats again. I mean, if you
Mhm.
need more congrats, but why is that? Is it because of our old aptitude towards cannabis? And because I used to get this all the time. What are you growing now? And I'm like,
Mhm.
dude, the same fucking shit I've been growing for the last 3 years. You get two choices here. This is what you've got. But you see that's where customer loyalty, you know, in those legacy days, yeah, it was real. But
Mhm.
you know, when they're hearing, oh, you know, there's pink Kush coming out of BC, you gonna grow that? No, I grow Master Kush Ultra. That's what I grow.
Yeah.
Right. So why is that? Is it just selection? Is it innovation? Where does this lifespan of a SKU come from?
It's cannabis culture, right? Like,
Okay.
I owned a head shop 20 years. So you have your core SKUs, right? You've got I remember, you know, raw, for example, raw and smoking browns, right? They were like my cores. I could sell those all day long. And, you know, raw came out with black, gold, whatever,
Right.
clear. You know what? Brown always sold, just a regular old raw, right? So you have to have your core SKU, which is, you know, your top seller, your 20% of sales. And everything else moves and fluctuates through trends. So it's like clothing, right? Like clothing changes every 3-4 months. And you have to be able to change with the trends, and you have to be able to forecast that, you know, this is going to be the next big thing. Like, what is on the rise right now? What is coming down? If you just jump into the Red Sea, you know, the bloodbath that everybody's in, and you're just going to make a distillate with botanical turf, like, good luck to you, you know? Like, just lower your price. So, you know, you have to be able to find that blue ocean. You know, there's a line from The Devil Wears Prada where they're talking about the blue sweater, right? And it's like, it's not just a blue sweater. You have to be able to see that that's going to be the thing that's coming up. You have to understand why this certain shade of blue is different and from everybody else's, and that's what makes this blue sweater what it is. You know, I think we need to stop looking at cannabis as just like a thing, and oh, it's just weed and high THC and low price, and that's the winner. And really, again, going back to the beginning of this conversation, is who is your customer? What is their trend? What are they looking for? What's hot for me? I look at what's hot in fashion, and how do I put that into what I'm doing now, right? Like, what's the next big color? What's like, you know, what's the next trend in purses, right? Like, I designed our herb pouch after my favorite purse. The color, the shape, everything for it is designed after my favorite clutch, right? And it's like little details that you have to think about. Yeah.
Well, I think I'm glad that you're saying it, but you understand, because we get guests and we talk to individuals, they'll say something. It's like, but you're not understanding it. Is that you get it. You get that. And it's from all this experience, right? You get that I'm going to create something, and hey, it could be a banger. It might last 3 years, but let's have the expectation that we're going to have to kill that SKU in X number of months or years, and we're going to have to find something else to replace it with. But I mean, that just makes sense. I think that more need to understand that, because they're business models, and let's face it, not all business models are created equal, or business plans. I have not seen that in a lot, because we don't give advice, we don't consult, but we get approached with, hey, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? And I'm like, you're dead out of the fucking gate. But, you know, in some cases, but in other cases, they're not thinking forward past a year. Almost all of them stop at a year, just dead on. So I love that. I love that you're thinking that far out, and you will share what's going on. We'll make it public. But no, I think, listen, Abby, we could go on obviously for hours, and we'll have you back on, but I just love everything you're doing. Love everything you've done, right? For this industry, for all of us. And I think that needs to be celebrated. So thank you very much for that, because I know chances are we wouldn't be where we are without your efforts and all the hard work that you've done. I mean, God, look where we are now. Everyone wants to naysay and it's all shit. You know, shit. No, you've got the wrong perspective. You're not looking at things the right way, right? So I just wanted to thank you for that, because we wouldn't be where we are today without the hard efforts of individuals like yourself.
And it was a lot harder 20 years ago, I tell you that much. So
I bet. Well, do you remember this? I used to do this. You'll know this. So it could be, as soon as the sun set, I would hear a thud, right? And I'm like, looking out my window, I'm like, what the fuck? It's just the neighbor's car door. But to me, it's like end of the world. Oh my God, they're coming. They're finally coming for me. They're coming to bust me, right? You remember that paranoia that was there. And I don't care who you were. If you pre-legalization, if you were in that, and I'm not even talking just sneaking off to an alley to hit a bong. I'm talking, it could be literally anything, and it would set you off, and
Totally.
you're in a bad mood for a while, right?
Yeah.
So, but you needed to live it, and
Yeah.
some don't understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, not many people have seen what I've seen in my lifetime.
I bet.
Sure.
I bet. Listen, Abby, thanks so much for joining us. We'll have you back on. Love our time together, but really appreciate you. Appreciate everything you're doing, and continued success. We're keeping a close eye.
Thank you. I really appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, of course, anytime.
Breadstack e-commerce. It might be time to upgrade.
I feel like I don't do anything now.
I feel like I've just met Santa Claus is what I feel like, because I like, that's really my first conversation, like full conversation with Abby. I know you probably met her and talked to her in the earlier days and stuff like that, but for me, I've heard a lot about her obviously over the course of my years in the industry, and it was especially with everything she's doing, and it felt like meeting Santa Claus. It was
it's like, because you hear of all the things, right? And you're like, that person can't exist. They just can't exist. And then here she is. She's here. Let's just remind everyone that her product is available. I think you can add to cart for the time being, but I think it's becoming available the 17th or the 19th. OCS has the listings on there, so you can go check out the public domain, ocs.ca, learn all about the different products that she's launching. But wow, I mean, she's just awesome. Her energy's awesome. You know, she's got a very positive outlook on the industry. She's real. She ain't fucking around. She tells it straight, 100%. Which I love. Who can't love that? More honesty, people. Just be honest with everything, and it all seems to work out somehow. But anyways, great episode. I love talking with people, period.
Well, good, because it's what we do. So
that's what we do. What am I going to do? Let's see. I like to talk. I'm very curious. We should start a podcast. Wes, we should start a podcast.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Anyways, no, great episode. Loved it. I love getting to this time with her. It's different when, air quote, I know we're conversing, but air quote, interviewing someone, because it's different than just your conversations. Because I remember even just having the pre-meet, and you talk to someone, you're like, fuck, we should be recording this. We need to start doing that.
Yeah, we've been like that before.
Yeah. But anyways, it was fun to have Abby on. It was fun to discuss the updates of the Elevate event. I see there's a whole bunch of chatter going on out there around the panels. Keep it up. Keep that discussion going. It's very important for our industry and the progression. So until next week, thanks for tuning in.